Greetings, distinguished followers, chosen chimp here, and welcome to my review of The Robot Revolution, the first episode of the brand new series of Doctor Who. Doctor Who is here, it has landed, the wait is over, and I will be giving you my verdict of the opening episode. Just to let you know, this review will be full of spoilers and the like, so if you haven't watched The Robot Revolution and you want to watch it, then don't watch this, but then go and watch it and then come back and watch this so we can all talk about it together over a glass and a cigar. So let's get straight into it. Two questions that I always ask when I am watching a brand new episode of Doctor Who is, did it have a clear and consistent personality of its own, and was I entertained? So to the question of, did it have a clear and consistent personality of its own? Almost, but not quite, and the reason why I think that I will get into soon enough. Was I entertained? Yes, I was. So this is the introduction of a brand new companion, Belinda Chandra. She is a hard-working nurse in a busy hospital who leads a normal life until one day she is kidnapped by robots and taken to the aptly named planet of Miss Belinda Chandra 1. It is there that she is worshipped as a queen. Humans and robots have lived in harmony for thousands of years, but for some reason they are currently at war. And she is heralded as a queen due to a fairly nonchalant artifact sitting in a house known as a star certificate, which was given to her as a present by an ex-boyfriend 17 years ago. The Doctor is here. He has looked after the rebellion and cited somewhat of a revolution and has been patiently waiting for Belinda's arrival. What the dickens is going on? What is the significance of Belinda, and who, what, where, why and how? So here we go. This is Doctor Who in the fast lane. I really love the pacing of this episode. It's got a real pulse from start to finish. There is no sleepiness to be found anywhere. It drops you straight into the action with no delay. Doctor Who in this episode and its brand new series is coming across as a show that is by no means half asleep. It is alive, it is well, its heart is beating, and this is the opening episode for it. We spend about 5 minutes in Belinda's home life. We've got some rapid shots of her doing stuff in the hospital, some rapid shots of her being a bit bored in her flat, and 5 minutes in, she's on an alien planet, worshipped as a queen. The humans are desperate, and this planet is great. I love the aesthetics of this world, just the brightly colouredness of it, the sheen of the robots, there's a sort of retro aesthetic thing going on. There's a kind of almost sort of, I don't know, a kind of 1950s B-movie-esque quality to how everything looks, the same pool of vintage sci-fi inspiration that maybe shows like Futurama drew from, like the shape of the rockets and the colour schemes and everything. Aesthetically and visually, this episode is just gorgeous. The Disney budget shining through, whatever it is. I just think the whole thing looks lovely, and it really complements the excitable tone of this story. You've got bright colours, flashing lights, a fast rhythm, a fast tempo. It just pulls you straight in. I was a bit sleepy waking up Saturday morning at 8 o'clock to watch this episode, but about 10 minutes in, I was wide awake. It had my full undivided attention. So bravo, Doctor Who, for opening on a high. Belinda Chandra, played by Varada Sefu, is a great companion for a variety of reasons. She is ticking all my boxes straight off the bat. She is cunning, she is witty, she is a breath of fresh air compared to Ruby Sunday, with no disrespect to Ruby Sunday, but the new companion had to be different in some way. This one is really taking the bull by the horns. She's thrown into an alien world and she's taken the initiative straight away, attempting to fight her own battles and not being led or mollycoddled by the Doctor, picking up the nuances of this alien world with alarming quickness and just being a nurse and doing nurses stuff. It's a great matrimony. There are a few things that she needs to be aware of, such as the ninth word of every bunch of words that are said. The robots cannot register because they are faulty, which is a concept the Doctor is very good at mastering just because he's super clever like that. But a normal human companion is going to have a bit of a harder time wrapping their head around that concept, but she does it. And for that reason, you know she's one of the good ones. I also really like the music score in this story. There's a nice beat to the new soundtrack. I don't think I've heard this one before. There are some nice kind of jazzy, trumpety parts that evoke a sense of doom and tragedy. And yeah, likewise, the Doctor has a bit of an interesting subplot going on with him as well. Just want to say, leading up to this, most of the introduction, like I said, was really fast-paced and really exciting, and it kind of drew from those comedic beats that is usually part and parcel of a Doctor Who episode that introduces a series. I think they understated possibly the consequence of accidentally shutting down an entire hospital and killing a cat, which everyone seems to have found funny. Yeah. So there's that, but when we get to the planet, the Doctor is a few steps ahead of the audience and Belinda. Belinda and the audience are kind of neck and neck in terms of learning what is going on here. We are sort of one and the same. Knowing the history of the Doctor doesn't really give the audience much of an advantage here because he's been on this planet for 6 months and we don't know what he's been up to. But then it is revealed pretty quickly that he has made friends with a woman called Sasha 55, who for all intents and purposes is booked to be his next companion, or at least that's how he sees it. But then unfortunately she gets shot, vaporized and killed. And I'm thinking to myself, is this technically the first time a companion has died since Adric? At least it might seem that way, you know, through the Doctor's eyes. He's been having adventures with her on this planet for 6 months, presumably, and naturally he is gutted, he cries. So they don't understate the severity of that, and that is quite an interesting way of injecting some drama into the otherwise adventurous and comedic tones of this episode. So we get halfway into this thing, and I'm feeling pretty psyched about the whole thing. I don't have many criticisms at all, except for the shutting down of the hospital and the killing of the cat. I think the episode is kind of operating on all cylinders. It's going really, really well. The main problem that Belinda has in this world is not only do the robots consider her a queen, but they also want to marry her to the AI generator. And speaking of aesthetics, I love the aesthetics of this AI generator machine. You know, the way you've got all the lightning striking, all the electricity, the power surges, and the big ominous, scary looking, cyberpunky, industrial, slightly gothic face in the middle. Again, aesthetics of this, I'm really, really impressed by. I thought the whole thing looked gorgeous from that angle, the way it went from cute and colourful to dark and sinister. A great little mix, all kind of works, all kind of blends very well. So the AI generator is basically the main big bad of this episode. And in the lead up to the big reveal, the Doctor and Belinda are playing catch up, and the Doctor is explaining to Belinda how the star certificate that the robots ripped off her wall in her flat, the star certificate that was given to her by her ex-boyfriend Alan, is the kind of focal point of this mystery, because the star certificate also exists from another timeline, simultaneous, around where the AI generator is based. The planet Miss Belinda Chandra 1 and planet Earth are rebounding off each other due to this time fracture, and it's creating a timey-wimey anomaly where time operates differently on both planets. So when the robots took the certificate, they accidentally sent it back 5,000 years into the past and created a kind of foundation for the mythology of their civilization. And this foundation has come to a dark fruition only 10 years ago in their history, when the robots suddenly turned on the humans. And that is the big mystery, and Belinda is at the core of it. So whilst the Doctor and Belinda are trying to wrap their heads around each other, and the Doctor drops the possibility that maybe Belinda is more than what she seems, again, we will get to that in just a moment, Belinda decides to make the ultimate sacrifice. Whilst hiding under a secret base where injured soldiers and the likes are congregating to plan their next move against rebellion, she causes the robots to come to the location specifically so she can get apprehended, thus stopping more people dying. A dangerous move and completely selfless, and she did not take any advice in doing it. Completely off her own back. Wow, this companion means business. And that is when she gets taken to the AI generator for the big wedding, where she will get melded into electronic parts and become a robot in her own right, which is, of course, a very bad thing. Shout out, speaking of humans turning into robots, shout out to Nicholas Briggs for doing the voices of the robots. Very cool. Good to see him back in TV Doctor Who. That man never stops working. So, here we go, folks. It's been a blast so far. What about this big reveal? Now, okay, the AI generator is not all it seems. In fact, it's not an AI generator at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this again, okay, because this is what Russell T Davies said to Doctor Who magazine, which was then requoted by Radio Times just a week ago. And he says, "We're all discussing AI, whether it works, how it might help or harm us. This is a moment for Doctor Who to reflect that." No, it doesn't. It didn't. That's not what happens at all. So due to the fact that the camera filming the AI generator was a little bit below the thing that it was shooting, there was a bit of metal sticking out from under the letters AI. So the I, when you look up above it a little bit, is actually an L, because it's not AI generator, it's Al generator, it's Alan, it's the ex-boyfriend who gave her the star certificate present 17 years ago. So because she told them slightly jovially to come after him and not her when they were kidnapping her and taking her to the planet, the time fracture caught that specific moment and caused the robots to kidnap Alan, like she literally suggested, and then they took him back to the planet 10 years ago. And because Alan is a big incel control freak, he immediately saw it as a big video game and turned the whole planet into a kind of robot revolt and enslaved the humans just because he could, and just because he thought it was fun. And also, even more worse than that is the fact that because he is a bit of a control freak and he was a bit gutted that he was rejected by Belinda, he now seeks to make good on his desire to have her married to him. So he gets the robots to take her and bring her up to the planet for the big wedding where they will get married, and he has his way, because that is the way of the incel, wanting their way. Now, okay, there are two points of discussion for me on this big reveal, and the first is, I don't view this as a twist, I view this as a bait and switch. Okay, we were promised AI, all right? We were promised some kind of allegory for AI, and I was looking forward to that. I gushed a little bit about that on my last video, how Russell T Davies was going to cover the concept of AI if he was going to do a broad analysis of what AI is, or whether he was going to go a bit nuanced and talk about generative AI and plagiarism and workers' rights. You know, as a veteran writer in his own right, was he going to go into some metaphorical pipe bombs, about ChatGPT and Krong or whatever it's called, and things like that. But no, so this quote here, it's a lie. He lied to Doctor Who magazine to trick us. It was a bait and switch. It was a swerve. And to be honest, whether you think the incel thing was a better storyline than what AI would have been, I personally don't really appreciate being misled by like that. Like, I enjoy getting worked to a degree. After all, I am a wrestling fan. Nothing like a good work, you know. My favourite work of the last series was the trailer to 73 Yards. 73 Yards? 72 Yards? Was the trailer on the episode previous, the week before 73 Yards, when it delivered the impression that this was going to be a spooky episode about a group of people trapped in a pub whilst a weird ghostly entity stands outside the pub being all scary and spooky. And it turns out that that was a work, because what actually happened was something more than that. It was something bigger than that. So I was pleased to have been tricked in that way. That was clever. This is just annoying, all right? This is Russell T Davies lying, which makes you wonder, what else is he lying about? And the problem with that is, the main problem is that a lot of people didn't much enjoy the finale to the last series. It was a bit messed up and jumbled. And because he went on that interview with the BBC and he talked about how you don't have to be an existing Doctor Who fan to appreciate the new stuff that he's delivering, and then all that stuff with Sutekh and the Pyramids of Mars, when you really kind of had to be an existing Doctor Who fan, surely that was a lie. And this is a lie, and just why? What's the point? Other than to lose trust and credit in your audience. I think this is a time when audiences are clamouring for Russell T Davies to make good on some of the mistakes he's made in the past and deliver the best work of his portfolio. And I think tricking the audience like this just doesn't help. I don't think it's big, and I don't think it's clever. So the AI thing was a lie. We're not getting that. Instead, we get an allegory for incels, which, okay, it's not even an allegory. He's just an incel. He's an incel in charge of a planet. He's a control freak, computer game playing nerd who expects everything to be his way. I get it, okay? So here's the thing, all right? So this is where my take on this may get, I don't know, a little controversial, I guess, maybe. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, I think we all know, it's probably happening right now, that there are some corners of the internet who are going to misrepresent this plot twist as Russell T Davies declaring nuclear war on all straight white men. All right. Whereas a more semi-intelligent critique of this might be, and I say semi-intelligent because it's me saying it, is the ending to the character of Alan fully justified? I mean, so what happens is that the Doctor and Belinda defeat Alan by getting the two certificates to touch, which is a bad thing in the world of timey-wimey, because when two objects that are the same in different time zones touch, it causes a big kaboom, whatever. So Alan, up until this point, has been a robot which has been grafted into this machine. By the way, I love the design on this robot. I kind of wish it was used for something a little bit more grandiose than a bit of a sort of skit on an opening episode, because it is visually, this robot Alan is bloody incredible to look at. I love it. And the shot when him and Belinda touch the certificates together, beautiful. That is a Kodak moment in Doctor Who visuals. Love it. Excellent. So then the time thing goes into a kaboom type situation where the Doctor goes all the way through Belinda's past and sees pretty much all of her life leading up to the moment That must be handy. I wonder if that's going to come back into play at some point. You'd think it would. Whereas Alan, on the other hand, gets reduced to a sperm and an egg on a floor. So when it gets cleaned up by the cute little vintage robot, I'm thinking to myself, that's basically Alan dead, isn't it? Now, I'm not going to say poor Alan, okay, and I am certainly not sticking up for or playing devil's advocate for control freak incel type people. Honestly, I'm not. But this is the same Doctor who tried to save Davros, as he stated in the Stolen of Earth episode. This is the same Doctor who even had a small amount of empathy for a gaggle of space racists in the last episode. This time around, he doesn't seem to have quite so much empathy for this character, Alan, which, I don't know, is that particularly Doctorish? A guy who has a track record of wanting to save the enemies, even the bad people, in many instances. Instead, in this episode, he does a victory dance while the vintage robot wipes a bit of semen off the floor. Okay, sperm in an egg, but you know what I mean, right? This isn't something, this isn't a moment that I was expecting to see in a brand new episode of Doctor Who, but here we are. Like I said, I'm not playing devil's advocate for the archetypical character that Alan represents. I get it, I understand where it comes from, and I understand why Russell T Davies wanted to make, you know, a villain out of this template, because God only knows the abuse that people in the minority have endured over the decades due to people like Alan, and yet perhaps some sort of rehabilitation might have been more justifiable. Maybe, okay? That might be a hot take. Either way, however you feel about that, it's all fun and games at the end of the day. They're all happy, and that's not the thing that annoys me the most. The thing that annoys me the most is the bait and switch. It wasn't a twist, it was a bait and switch, and in my opinion, it wasn't a good one, and it doesn't serve the fandom very well to be telling porcupines like that on interviews. So it's all fun and games from there. It's all wrapped up in a neat little bow. The robots and the humans are living in harmony once again on the planet of Miss Belinda Chandra 1. And then Belinda and the Doctor board the TARDIS, and then you get the ending to the end. Belinda rejects the Doctor's offer of becoming his new companion. She just wants to get home. She's not digging this thing of being his next companion, just to travel around the universe at his whim. That's just not how she wants to operate, which is a pretty good twist, I think. So when the Doctor tries to get her home, oh yeah, the whole Mundy Flynn thing as well. So there is a reference to Mundy Flynn and how that character is a distant, very distant descendant of Belinda Chandra, and then there is a kind of foreshadowing of the fact that Belinda has come here 3,000 years before is not a coincidence. She is playing a pivotal role in something. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't go down this route, as I stated before. I just want her to be the new companion with no strings attached, and they explained it. She's got a billion removed granddaughter who looks like her. Great, they could have just stopped it there, but no, there's some kind of pivotal thing going on in the future. Again, alright, okay, fine, just look, I just want this to be about her getting home because it's neat, it's simple, and it allows more wiggle room for the drama to operate around it. And lo and behold, the Doctor tries to operate the TARDIS to take her home, and it doesn't work. It keeps rebounding, it keeps glitching. For some reason, they can't land on the date where the TARDIS took her, which is quite an interesting concept. It reminds me of the whole Big Bang thing in the first Matt Smith, Stephen Moffat series. I'm quite excited to see where that goes. There was a small part of me at some point that wondered, is the Doctor being a bit of a William Hartnell git here and deliberately stopping the TARDIS from landing home just so we can retain this companion because he's so desperate not to be alone? I don't know, could be a twist, maybe. I mean, but what happens next kind of removes that being a possibility, because when the TARDIS disappears, you get this great shot of space debris from planet Earth, and you know it's planet Earth because it's got all the trimmings. You got a London taxi, a pyramid, the Statue of Liberty, and a calendar telling you the date of when the Earth was destroyed. How convenient. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's about. The Earth is going to get destroyed again, the companions a mystery again, and there is a certain element of repetitiveness to this, granted, and I already said it's the thing that I don't want. And yet it was done in such a way that I am fascinated to see where it goes, and I'm looking forward to future episodes. Overall, I think The Robot Revolution was a very good start to this series. It was fast-paced, it was action-packed, it was funny, it was dramatic, it was a reminder that Doctor Who is a thing that is still alive and kicking and still a thing full of energy. Ncuti Gatwa knocked it out the park as always. Belinda Chandra is a great assistant, and there was nothing not to like really, except for the bait and switch and this whole twist of the Al generator. I probably would have got on board with a lot more if Russell T Davies hadn't planted that false information in advance. If I'd never read that Radio Times, I wouldn't be ranting about this, but the fact is that he did, and that annoys me. But other than that, I enjoyed this episode. I think it was good fun. I think it was a much more worthy opener than the last season's opener, The Space Babies, and I think overall, all things considered, mistakes aside, I think this was starting the new series on the right foot, and it's got me excited to see where it goes from here. So overall, I liked this episode. I thought it was great, and I'm excited for next week, Lux. Okay, I thought this episode was going to land somewhere in the middle with the cartoon Alan Cummings character, Mr. Ring-a-Ding, but no, it's next week, so they're just keeping the adrenaline high. I've got high hopes for this series, but I am also cautiously pessimistic about the ending. I need to have a little bit more trust in Russell T Davies, given to me by Russell T Davies, basically, before we go further into this. Okay, you know, this series has a interesting, diverse, wonderful, fresh roster of new writers writing some of these episodes, but if you look at the episode list on Wikipedia, you can see that these new interesting, diverse, fresh young writers are sandwiched within a big Russell T Davies bap, and the bread is very thick indeed. So the creative direction and the entire gimmick of this show is controlled by Russell T, and for him not to be seen as some kind of showrunner dictator, there needs to be a little more, can I say, respect given towards the audience here. And just, I don't know, just tell a good story, Russell. Come on. You don't need to be clever, all right? You don't need to be timey-wimey. Just tell a good story. And if you do that, I got a feeling this could be a great season. That is my review of Robot Revolution. Thank you very much for watching. Next week, I will be back to review Lux. And in the meantime, you can check me out at social media, at Blue Sky, at thechosenchimp.bsky.social. You can also follow me on Patreon, patreon.com/chosenchimp, where you can become a distinguished follower for just £1 a month. You can request a classic TV Doctor Who story for review, and if you follow me now, I will mention your name in these videos. Also check me out on TikTok. I do a TikTok thing. There you go, TikTok, misleading cakes. And yeah, until next time, I hope you all have a great time. Please all stay safe and well, and most importantly, for the love of Pete and his world, have a good one.